The NHL has announced its finalists for the NHL's Calder Trophy. We have an update on the Women's World Championships being held in August. We also have some excellent-looking prospects signing their ELCs today. And should the Toronto Maple Leafs consider trading Mitch Marner? There's a lot of talk about Marner for Seth Jones in Columbus. We'll discuss that possibility, and should they do it? Coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about here today. First up, we have some news on the Women's World Hockey Championship. Of course, we already found out earlier that the tournament was postponed or essentially canceled and was supposed to be held in Nova Scotia, but then the Hockey Canada and the IOC got together and did figure out a way to postpone it till August. We were just waiting on confirmation of where the tournament was going to be held, and that has been confirmed. It's going to be in Calgary, Alberta. Now, we pretty much knew it was going to be in Canada, even though there was other cities and other countries that had offered to host. Of course, where it was Canada's turn to host, Hockey Canada was working with several locations, and as we talked about before, Alberta had a couple of spots there that were basically the top of the running, and Calgary's pulled it out, so that should be good for them. It'll be held in August, and nice to see the tournament going ahead there. Now, the NHL's also announced its finalists today for the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. No real big surprises here. There is a few good rookies, though, that didn't make the cut, but again, not a big surprise. It's led by Kirill Kaprizov of Minnesota, of course, Jason Robertson in Dallas, and Alex Nedeljkovic, the goaltender in Carolina. Of course, Ned had a real solid year between the pipes. Really came on strong once he had a chance more to take over the starting role and kind of ran with it. Obviously, there's some other great rookies, including a couple in Ottawa like Josh Norris and Tim Stützle, and a few others too. And they, not to say that they didn't have great seasons, but obviously, Dollar Bill Kirill, as they call him, led the way. He's more likely going to win. Robertson gave him a good run. But same time, you know what? Where Nedeljkovic has a different position and had a real solid year, I don't think you can completely count him out either. So those are your three finalists. Lots of great rookies. There was actually a lot of great rookie goaltenders this year as well. Nice to see so many great young players having so much success here in the NHL. Now, as I mentioned, we also have some really top prospects signing contracts today, some of which are going to be good prospects and I think really have an impact at the NHL level. So let's jump into those details here now. The Montreal Canadiens have signed defenseman Mattias Norlinder, who was a third-round pick in the 2019 NHL draft. Of course, he's been playing in Europe since then. He's really come along well with his development. It looks as though he'll be making the jump to come to North America in the fall to join the Habs organization. Likely spend some time in the minors, of course. The Habs have some other, interesting defensive prospects there. They've got, a couple of younger ones already in their system, like Romanov. So this team is really, as much as they're having playoff success now, they still have some more solid-looking prospects on the way to kind of keep injecting some youth into it. So he really looks like could be a solid defenseman for the Habs. The Philadelphia Flyers have signed Swedish goaltender Samuel Ersson, who was a 2018 third-round selection. Erson's a really solid goalie. He's had a chance to play before for Sweden at the World Juniors, represented his country in numerous international tournaments. He's been playing in the SHL for quite a while now. He's had some really solid numbers. I really think Erson has a real whole lot of potential. Now, of course, the Flyers have a good solid young goalie in Carter Hart, but we know he had a really not so good year this past year and kind of had some setbacks. So Erson, I don't think will be a guy to challenge him immediately, but I can see in the next year or two, after getting acclimated with North America, that he could certainly be in the running to at least be part of the goaltending tandem. So I think this guy has a lot of potential, and another great young goalie there for the Flyers. Now, we also had a signing for the New York Rangers, signing Swedish defenseman Nils Lundkvist. Now, Longvist is a real solid-looking defensive prospect. Been playing in the SHL for, I think, 4 or 5 years, or parts of 4 or 5 seasons now. Has some real solid offensive upside. It feels like it's been a long time since he's been drafted, because he was actually a first-round pick, but it was a late first-round pick, 28th overall back in 2018. So he's obviously been continuing to play in Europe and continuing to develop and get stronger, and he'll make the jump now. I mean, the Rangers have added a lot of other interesting younger defensemen to their lineup here over the past year or so, and we know Lundqvist is coming, so that's another excellent option for them. Now, of course, we're still waiting on word from NHL Player Safety on what the outcome will be for Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets. He did have his hearing earlier today. That's all been concluded now for a few hours. I imagine we'll likely get some kind of an update this evening, so we'll certainly check back. And there could be another video this evening. Just depends on what time we get an announcement or when they reveal what the outcome is. But Scheifele's suspension is definitely coming. It's just a matter of how many games it's going to be. I really think it's probably going to be 2, maybe 3, but we'll see. Obviously, I did a video earlier kind of going through the whole in-depth analysis and everything, gave my thoughts. So if you want to get more details on what I think about that, you can check out that other video on the channel. Before we jump into the rest of our video, I just want to take a quick moment and pause to acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. Of course, with Manscaped, we have a special offer here for all Top Shelf Hockey viewers where you can get 20% off and free shipping into all orders at manscaped.com. Now, of course, Manscaped just launched a brand new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is a fantastic product. They've taken the level up here, even again with the skin-safe replaceable blades. It's waterproof, it's wireless charging, has a travel lock on it, as well as a nice light so you don't miss what you're doing. So certainly a terrific product. Now, many people associate Manscaped with their trimmers, which is certainly kind of their top product, but they do have a lot of other great options as well, including what they call the Weed Whacker, which is another trimmer for your ears and nose. And they have a variety of deodorants and sprays as well, which also keep you fresh and are terrific as well. So certainly Manscaped has a lot to offer, and we certainly highly recommend all of their products. So check out manscaped.com and use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. As I mentioned as well, there's a lot of talk in the Maple Leaf land about what they're going to do to move forward. I mean, we've seen their end-of-year media availabilities. We heard from Brendan Shanahan. We've heard from Sheldon Keefe, Kyle Dubas, many of the players, and, you know, kind of getting an indication of what some of their plans might be. And we've heard from a few NHL insiders on some of the thoughts on what they're hearing as well. And there's a lot of people talking about Mitch Marner needs to be traded. Now, of course, we talked about this a couple days ago after the Leafs were beat out. I know there was all over social media, Maple Leaf fans losing their minds, indicating that one of the big four, preferably Marner, due to his lack of production in the playoffs, needed to be traded. So, of course, we went in depth with that, and I kind of outlined the fact that I don't see Mattias going anywhere. John Tavares has a no-move clause. William Norlinder probably has the most tradable contract of the big four, but he was also your most productive player in the playoffs, so do you really want to move that? I would probably think not. And then you get Marner, who, you know, even though playoff Marner wasn't all that great, regular season Marner has been phenomenal. For the past 3 years, he's basically been averaging, I mean, of course, the last 2 years were different because we didn't have full 82-game seasons. But if you project what those numbers would have been over 82, and even go back a year before that, he's averaging between 94 and 99 points a season. Like, he's maybe still not at his peak. He still has room to grow. He still has room to get better. He just turned 24 years old within the past month. So he's got lots of time. Like, there's still plenty of Marner prime years left. He's got 4 years left on his contract, $10.9 million. Obviously, it's a lot of money. You know, so should they move one of the big four? I wouldn't completely rule it out, but based on what you heard from Shanahan and Dubas, I'm going to say that that most likely is not going to happen. Based on what they're saying right now, it sounds like they want to continue to work with this group and help get them there. Now, you got to remember, not all NHL superstars were strong playoff performers early in their careers. I mean, yeah, I realize that it's been 5 years now, and so it's not like it's been, you know, like just the first time in the playoffs or something like that. I get that, but I'm just saying, some players seem to take longer than others to get the playoff success done. There's been a lot of guys, you've seen them have great regular seasons, but just not get over the hump. And whether, you know, the stats are there or not, but either way, not have the victories, which is the more important stat here. Is it the team winning? Did they get a Stanley Cup and all that? And you know what? Like, I just don't get the impression that the Leafs really want to go out and make a blockbuster move. However, they did admit the changes need to be made. They did admit that obviously changes are definitely going to be coming. They have a lot of guys that are free agents. I'm not sure that a lot of them are going to be back, and we have some guys that are nearing the end of their contracts that could be moved as well. So should you trade Mitch Marner for Seth Jones? Because we know Seth Jones has made it known he's not re-signing in Columbus. He's expected to be traded this offseason. He's considered by many to be probably a top 5 or 6 defenseman across the NHL. He's a little bit older than Marner. He's 26. He'll be 27 right around the time the next season starts this fall. So he's got 3 years on Mitch. He's got 1 year left on his contract. So clearly he would have to agree to a contract extension for most teams to make sense to make a trade for him. And especially if you're going to give up something significant like Marner, you better be getting Jones with a long-term contract and maybe even something more. To be honest, I'm not sure that's a fair one-for-one trade, and here's my rationale. Jones, like I said, he's 3 years older, so he's nearing the latter part of his prime where Marner's just entering it. Marner is a top 5 scorer in the league. Yeah, you could make an argument that Jones is a top 5 to 10 defenseman in the NHL as well, but in my opinion, Jones is at that point where he's starting to decline. I'm not saying he's a bad defenseman. I'm not saying he's completely no good anymore, anything like that. That's not where I'm going. He's still a really solid right shot top pair D who can log big minutes. I'm just not convinced that he's quite as strong as he was a few years ago, and you might want to be extremely careful with that. If you get a declining defenseman compared to a super point producer, yes, regular season, I understand, I get that. The playoff performance is not there yet, but still, you might live to regret it, and it might not take too long to do that. So I really don't know that a trade like this really should happen. I know that many are calling for it. Now, one thing that I think might be a better alternative is I honestly am not sure that a guy like Morgan Rielly is going to be back in Toronto. I'm not suggesting he should be traded for Seth Jones. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. You got 2 defensemen, both with 1 year left. If you can't afford Rielly, you're not going to afford Jones. But the only way to afford a guy like Jones would be if Marner goes, because you're going to get a lot more cap flexibility. If you do trade a guy like Marner, you could get a guy like Jones under contract and probably add another, not to the same level of Marner, of course, but a decent forward, making maybe $3-4 million. Obviously it's not going to get you, a top 6 guy, but you could get somebody maybe at a different part of their career that you might be able to make sense of it. Anyways, that's really neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, I just don't think Marner's going anyway. I think Rielly's a more likely trade candidate. Rasmus Sandin's already starting to do his job and do the role of him. As much as Rielly's been good, he's going to want a long-term mega deal. I don't know if they can afford that. You get Zach Hyman, though. Zach Hyman's a free agent now. And there's some, including Chris Johnson, who says he's not completely convinced that Hyman returns because there's going to be a lot of other teams that are going to be outbidding the Leafs here, no doubt. I mean, Hyman's got to decide, do I want to make less money and be a Maple Leaf, or do I really want to get paid here? And even though my gut instinct says he wants to be a Leaf, I just don't know. Sometimes money talks and can be too difficult to pass up if it's too drastic of a difference. So, as much as I want to say Hyman's probably back, I can't say for sure that he is. And that's going to be a big blow. He plays a big role. He chips in a lot offensively, and he really helps out that line with Matthews, helping dig the pucks out of the corners. It's a lot of the hard work and the gritty work and the board work and all that kind of stuff. Lets them be more of the finesse guys. Get most of the attention and, obviously getting the accolades for the success they have achieved. But at the end of the day, you get Freddie Anderson's not coming back. Hyman might not be back. I'd consider maybe moving Rielly. I don't see any of the big 4 coming back. A lot of their other free agents, I'm not sure that Thornton or Simmons will be back. I say Spezza likely returns. Maybe Galchenyuk if he's willing to take a league minimum deal. There's a couple guys like that. Otherwise, I think we're going to see the Leafs go through what we did last year. They're going to add some different types of players for cheaper contracts and go from there. They're likely losing either Alex Kerfoot, maybe Justin Hall in the expansion draft. I think after how Travis Dermott played in the playoffs and how Justin Hall played, wouldn't be shocked if Hall was left exposed and Dermott was protected. I would have said the opposite a couple months ago, but I think it might be that way now. I think they'd probably protect Rielly unless they trade him first. If they trade Rielly ahead of expansion, then that frees up some more options for them there. Obviously, they could protect Justin Hall. They could protect Travis Dermott. They could protect Jake Muzzin. They have Sandin, who's exempt, and they can keep a larger part of their blue line intact. And, of course, I'm not sure what the return on Rielly would be. Anyways, they have options is what I'm saying. But all the talk about Jones for Marner, I personally don't think it's a great idea. I'm not convinced it's going to happen. It seems to be everywhere. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of fans are calling for it. It's jumped into a lot of media guys writing stories about it. And I just personally think it's all a little bit crazy. I mean, this all is fresh. It just happened. The Leafs got beat out. I understand the emotions are running high for a lot of Leaf fans and even the ones that cover the Leafs and what they should do and all that. But they better tread carefully. Because even though I understand everybody's frustrated over their lack of production, Matthews and Marner are elite players that are almost impossible to find. If they keep having team success, they're not going to get first overall, fourth overall picks, which is what you need to get those kind of players in the draft and have them developed. And if they trade them for the wrong players, then they're going to be screwed. And then they're going to end up in a situation where they're not going to have that playoff success because they're not going to be as good a team. You need those regular season players to even get to the playoffs. I could keep reminding people of that. You take away regular season Marner and his 95 to 99 points, who's going to replace that? You know, that's not easy. So they better trade carefully. So I don't see this trade happening, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on it because it seems to be dominating the headlines throughout social media and many hockey websites and radio shows, etc. So let me know what your thoughts are. Should the Maple Leafs consider trading Marner? Would a Marner for Jones deal make sense to you? Give me your mock trades. What else do you think? Like, what would the total trade look like? Or should they go a different direction? Should they consider trading Riley instead? What would you do if you're Kyle Dubas? Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news from around the entire NHL. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.